Assalamu alaikum, everyone. How's everyone doing? Thank you for stopping by the stream. It's your boy AntWestFitnessBB, aka Ant West, and we're here to talk about the new chapter, the new Surah, Anfal. We're here to talk about it. We're here to listen to it. It's going to be quite short today. I do apologize. It's not going to be super very long stream, but honestly, I'm kind of excited. It's almost iftar for me. I'm about to already get ready to order my food and get ready to crush my guy because I'm not eating all day. I'm starving. I'm thirsty, and also I got something. So I told you guys the other day that I was gonna put up a video of my just talking about a few things. My first experience for the first week of Ramadan, as well. I was also going to talk about. I'm going to talk about my show, essentially my first Jummah prayer session that I had, and it was pretty nice. I forgot that I wanted to incorporate something, so I decided to give you guys a little bit of an extra snippet to kind of excite the senses a little bit for you guys, because I do know that you guys told me about this previously. So I'm going to add that to the video today, and I should be edited, and it should be out by tomorrow morning. So around the time you guys, around noon for you guys, it should be out. So it'll be pretty good timing for you guys to watch it. So, nonetheless, I wanted to just go ahead and let you guys know that. But nonetheless, thank you guys for stopping by, as always. So, what's up, Babu? Thank you for stopping by. Ali, thank you for stopping by. Wa alaikum assalam to you. Thaideen, assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you for stopping by. Not much. What's going on with you guys? Day 32 of asking the reaction. Oh my gosh. This guy's never going to give it up. This video is going to be good. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a good video. It's going to be a good video. I wanted to add a little extra oomph to the video, so I thought I'd add something from today that I just recorded. So I want to add 3 segments to the video, so that's going to be pretty dope. And also, I'm going to be real with you. So I'm going to try my best to knock out another video by tomorrow night. While I'm not going to be able to stream tomorrow, I got some stuff that I got to take care of, so I'm not going to be able to watch the next chapter. No, I don't think I'll be able to do it on Wednesday either. So unfortunately, that's the only bad news that I do have. However, there will be videos going up on Tuesday and Wednesday, so you'll have some content to watch while I'm away. I have some things with work I have to do. Then I have a lot of a lot of errands, and I'm actually going on a trip next week. So it's going to be a lot of planning that I need to do the next couple of days. And I also have to attend my class for the Akida and the Ila that where I'm pretty much studying right now. I have classes for those on Wednesday, but Thursday and Friday I will stream with you guys. Friday I'll stream. Saturday, Sunday obviously I will stream, and I'll also have some videos in the wait for you guys as well. So that's gonna be pretty dope. So hopefully you guys will appreciate that. But nonetheless, I've talked enough. Actually, let me close my door. You're all up in my closet. My closet door is all open. Gotta have a clean background, man. Gotta have a clean background. All right. So once again, I'm going to be doing that. That's just something I wanted to let you guys know and have some input on. So nonetheless, we're going to get into I'll Unfall. This is called the voluntary gifts. So once again, it's a little different from what I have in my book. And my book is called the Spoils of War. That's what I have. So it's a little different. I'm not too sure as to if that's the true one or if this one's better. But this one says the spoils of war, and of course it has a little bit of a thing in the beginning, a prelude to it. So I'm going to read it. So it tells me here that this chapter was revealed in Medina to explain how the spoils of war should be distributed following the believers' victory over the Meccan pagans at Badr in 2AH 624 CE. The chapter urges for the believers to be true to God and His messenger, reminding them of how they were outnumbered, but God sent down angels for their aid. It is made clear that although victory comes only from God, the believers should always be ready to defend themselves and be open for peace. The pagans are warned that their plots to hinder others from God's way and oppose the truth will only end in failure. A theme emphasized in both the previous and following chapters. So I guess this is going to go into a little bit more about the pagan stuff, and I'm assuming just from what it talks about, it's going to touch a little bit on the pagans and why they're actually the enemies, and then it talks more about obviously the battle and then obviously it's gonna talk more about the spoils of that battle, those battles. So I can only assume. I think I've heard. I think this is something I lightly touched on. If I'm not mistaken, that the spoils of war are supposed to not go just solely to the people. I think it's supposed to go to those that are most in need, like the homeless or the orphans, so that way they can eat and they can have shelter and provisions. So I think that's what I've lightly touched on. I might be totally wrong, but I think that's what I've heard or what I was told. So this is going to be pretty good. I can't wait to read into this. This is only 30 minutes, so this is going to be great. Enough time for me to get what I need to do done, and I could also order my food and it'd be here around the same time. So this is going to be great. This is going to be a nice little session. And I'm gonna, as soon as I'm done with this, I'm gonna record I'm gonna edit my video, get ready to put it up for tomorrow, and yeah, this is gonna be great. So how are you finding going through the Quran so far, Ahmad? Thank you so much for that question, Ahmad. Assalamu alaikum to you. It's going. I mean, so far, I mean, honestly, I just had a little bit of not a revelation. I want to say I've had a little bit more of an epiphany as far as like I'm starting to understand why Islam is perfect, and why people are really keen on the faith. And there is even though it's a kind of repetitive underlying thing, but I think it's important. And I started to actually think to myself a little bit, looking back on Christianity and looking back at some other religions even. I was starting to actually look back and I was thinking to myself, man, this is very intriguing. Because obviously, like I listened to Sheikh Uthman, I listened to Sheikh Zakir Naik, I listened to a lot of different people about like why Islam is the truth. And they always bring up the same thing, like, the reason why Christians are looked at in a certain way in Islam is because they think that God is Jesus is God in human form. And there's like this continuous theme that there's always, the people always end up flipping the script and worshiping things and doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Whether it be worshiping something or whether it be just doing things that are totally not supposed to be doing, people end up doing both of those things throughout history. And every time I think about a religion, actually, except for maybe Buddhism a little bit and maybe Taoism, I'm not too sure because they don't really worship anything. But as far as I'm concerned, there is an underlying theme in Islam where it's like they constantly talk about why it's imperative not to worship anything other than God and Allah. Like, because the thing is, it's like even with Jesus, like if you look at that story, I was actually reflecting on. I was re-listening to again because I love the talk between Jesus and Allah. Like, that's probably one of my favorite surahs so far. I think like that one really touches my heart to this day because it reminds me of like why I decided to join Islam anyway, and why I constantly remember why Jesus is not God in my eyes. And it honestly, not only just that, but it also reminds me of the fact that God is the only one worthy of worship. And it did make me think about like all the stories, like from Noah all the way to Moses to now, like how many times people really have flipped the script and said, like, there's something else that you should worship other than God, or maybe alongside God, and that's not how it should be. Because obviously one of the two of the first commandments is, or I think it's like one of the two. I'm not too sure. I think there's only one God. I think it's only one God, and the second one is not to follow any other gods except God. And obviously people have strayed away from that continuously. And it's kind of it's something that I constantly think about. It's kind of insane. And I was just like, man, like that must be exactly why when you look into I haven't even read any of the hadith yet, but I just know for a fact that like every time I get quoted a piece of the hadith, everybody talks about the sunnah so much that I'm just like, why do we always have to follow? Like, I mean, not like right now, obviously, I'm just always, this was like right before I became Muslim, but it was always a question in my mind, like, why do we always get to follow in the ways of the Prophet? Like, I was, and once again, it was part of my Islamophobia, I think, a little bit. It wasn't really Islamophobia, but it just kind of made me think about things differently. But it was just like, why do people follow in the way of the Prophet so much? And I never understood it, because it's like, like, why do we have to do literally everything the Prophet does? And then I took a second to reflect, and I was like, bro, we were doing everything in the ways of the Prophet before Muhammad. We were doing it with Noah. We were doing it with Moses. We did it with Jesus. We did it with everyone, with all the prophets. They've all said we have to follow a certain thing that they do. And maybe along the way we've kind of lost that the ideology of like following in their footsteps. Now we'll still say that there's some things where I find it kind of subjective as far as like what you do when you're following a prophet. However, I'm starting to understand that more. Like that's kind of like more of an epiphany for me. So you got to understand, like to me, it's like, oh, it's starting to connect the dots a little bit. It's starting to connect, like regardless of the basic dots that you connect to as to why you want to enter Islam and why Islam is the way it is, you start to understand these levels every time you read a new chapter. And I think that's the beauty so far about the Quran, and that's what I'm appreciating very, very much. Like it's actually connecting more and more dots. It's giving you more of a reason why as to why like you need to do these things. And I think like that was something that was pertinent with the last chapter, because especially talking about all the prophets and how like their people always strayed away from the path, and like they always ended up doing something totally different than they were supposed to be doing. And even though like it was an underlying theme, it didn't click for me until later that night when I reflected on it. And again, I was thinking to myself, oh, this is why Muslims literally try to follow the way of the Prophet so much, because you don't want to stray from the path at all, you know? And everybody keeps talking about staying on a straight path. Like, what does that mean? You know, everybody brings that up. But I mean, I think to myself, what is the straight path? Worshiping God alone. So I think about it like that. But that's not just it, but also to follow in the lines of the Prophet. So now I understand why the Hadith and why the Sunnah are very, very pertinent and why they're very important. It makes way more sense now. It's connecting the dots for me. And so every time I read a chapter, I'm more excited to read what's next. And I'm honestly, like I will say, I haven't felt this I haven't felt this good to read a book, or this excited to read a book, in a very, very long time. And that speaks a lot of levels, because I haven't really been excited to read any books. Except, I think, well, I'll say the last time I was excited to read a book was the book No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. And I read that like 3 years ago. So that was like the last time. But before that, I hadn't read a book that would remotely excited me, except in 2015, because that was 2019. And then it was 2015 before that when I read the book by Thich Nhat Hanh. He was a monk that died recently, actually, in the beginning of the year. Rest his soul. He was a beautiful soul. He actually walked alongside Dr. Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King actually supported his thing. He was a Buddhist monk, and he actually supported nonviolence. And he did in his country. They believed in like killing monks. I can't remember what the history was. I forgot about it. But he wrote his story about it, and over time he actually became a well-renowned monk, and he actually ended up like becoming very famous. He wrote a book called Living Buddha, Living Christ. And that's when when I started discovering my faith a little bit more, my spirituality. That's when I came to the conclusion where I wanted to be more Buddhist-like, and I also saw Christ in a different light too. So that because of him, I would have never really reestablished some sort of spiritual connection. So nonetheless, it's very intriguing, like how like this sparked my interest again. And reading, because I really have never read a book in a long time where I'm like, I want to know what's next now. I want to know what's next. Sometimes I read a book, I'm like, okay, I think I could just take from this and be good. And then I don't think I really need to read the rest, because that's the thing. There's like a little secret with authors, and they kind of spoil the whole book by giving away too much in the beginning. A good author is a good author when he doesn't give away too many details of the book in the beginning. And I will say in the beginning of this, in the Quran, obviously you read a lot about like just the basic stuff. Like, if you hear my dog in the background, just ignore my dog. I'm sorry, guys. But nonetheless, in the beginning of the book, it talks about a lot of the basic stuff. It talks about the sins, and talks about like, the beginning, and obviously like, the differences between kafirs and believers, and like what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Now it's starting to get into more of like the history of Islam, and it also goes into more rules depending on what you're looking into. And I think like the last chapter was very insightful, and it made me kind of like take a step back and realize like, bro, like you don't realize how hypocritical people are when you start to really take a step back. As far as like I said before, like I was like, why do we have to worship the prophet? Like not worship the prophet, but why do we have to follow in the lines of the prophet so much? Because it's like, I mean, like, yeah, like I understand he was the prophet, but we're following his rules. Whatever he says goes. If it's in the Quran and he said it, then you should follow it. Point blank, period. But as far as like actually following in his footsteps, I never really got that. But then I thought, once again, I thought about it, and I was like, bro, that's what Christians do, quote unquote, technically, what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to follow in the footsteps of Christ. You're supposed to follow exactly what he does. But I feel like it was a little bit more, even though it's a little bit more detailed, I feel like in Islam, but I feel like in Christianity, it's like very vague. It's like you just have like these nice little things that you do, and and then that's pretty much it. But in this, is way more descriptive. So nonetheless, it's very intriguing. So I ranted a little bit there. Sorry about that long explanation. Spoils of war is more accurate. Okay, bet. Assalamu alaikum, Mo. Walaikum assalam, Mo. Thank you for stopping by. Which one, Surah Miriam? The Surah with the table spread Surah. I forgot what it's called in Arabic. The table spread. Alhamdulillah, knowledge of the deen is the most important thing. Those who do their best to reach the truth, truth sincerely, yet reach an incorrect conclusion, Allah says they are forgiven. Aman, yes, exactly. We have to think as the books like the Quran, Injil, and Torah, and proofs of the prophets, and not independent scriptures that exist in a vacuum. 100%. The prophet is the best example to follow. Not following him and abandoning his ways is only leads to deviance and innovations. 100%. I start to understand that more. I start to understand that why that is. The Quran tells us to obey Allah and His Messenger, Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. That's why Hadith Sunnah is as important as the Quran. I got you. Understood. To be honest, pacifism seems like a dumb concept to me. Without violence, every ideology and nation gets destroyed. Violence is necessary for the continuation of the human race. I agree, and I kind of disagree with that. I will say that I think that in my heart of hearts, violence is inevitable, because there's always going to be. That's why I joined Islam to begin with, because like to me, I am a true believer in peace, in pacifism. I'm naturally, to be honest with you, I'm a pacifist at heart. I'm empath. I'm not a sympath. I'm an empath. I feel for people and I understand their pain. And I also am sorry, because sometimes like you feel for someone so much that you just feel sorry for everything, even though it's not your fault. I personally don't think it's a dumb ideology. I just think that at some point, though, when does the pacifism become enough? Like if you want me to get back into my weeb stuff, even Naruto was very feeling for his enemies, and he started to feel for them as you started watching Naruto Shippuden. But just because he felt for them doesn't mean that he had to stand up. He didn't stand up for what he believed in and had to fight them. At some point, it comes down to you standing up for what you believe in, and you have to fight for it. And that's the whole thing. Like I lived my life in a way where I kind of thought to myself, you don't need to fight at all. You can just live peacefully. But it's like, no, at some point, somebody's going to feel like they have the upper hand in some way, shape, or form, and they're going to have the right to bully you in some way, or they have to force their ideologies upon you. And at that point, what do? Do you just kind of like kneel over and just kind of like, yes, accept it, or do you fight for what you believe? And I think at some point, that's where also, to tie this in, but I believe in that, but I also believe that also ties into manhood, because at some point, like if you want to look at the world that we're living in now, the world is full of people that are literally trying to change the way society's always been for thousands of years. Which is like, I understand it's commendable. Things change, and that's inevitable. Change is inevitable. However, I feel like there's some principles that we should still keep, because just because it came from people a long time ago in a desert somewhere does not mean that they were incorrect. There's some things that they were talking about and they spoke about that were hold truth, and if it didn't hold truth, we wouldn't be studying about it today in history class, or we wouldn't be studying about it even when you go to college. You wouldn't study about these things. These are still pertinent in our society at this current moment. So I feel like it is to a degree. However, we all know that at some point the bully needs to be dealt with. And sometimes using your words to the bully is not the way it's going to be solved. Sometimes you have to fight the bully. And that's what I believe in. So yes, I agree and I disagree. It's called Al-Madi. Yeah, see, I'm not too sure on the Arabic, so that's why I didn't say it. It's called Al-Mida. Okay. If the Christians actually turned the other cheek, Christianity would have been finished long ago. Well, honestly, it has been finished long ago. because people don't believe in nothing. Like, well, they believe in standing up for Christian. Like, that's the thing. Christians are in a weird spot. They're in a weird predicament right now. Like, they stand up for what they believe in, but they also don't stand up for what they believe in. They kind of like just turn a blind eye. You know what I'm saying? And it's unfortunate because it's like, well, there's a lot of, even in the Bible, there's time, like, granted, I understand the whole point of Christianity is to like look at the New Testament and not really pay attention to the Old Testament. The Old Testament in the Bible is supposed to be kind of like a prelude to why Jesus is the, quote unquote savior to humanity, because he essentially was telling you to essentially like don't do things needlessly. And people ended up doing things needlessly all the time, going to war, fighting over things, putting tax on people that honestly that were atrocious and way inflated. Like, you had crazy inflated tax. That's why he went to the temple and he flipped the table over and said, "How dare you do this to my people? This is not what you're supposed to do." Things like that. Like, that's when that's like my general consensus of that, because it's like, well, Jesus did in a sense still fight. He just fought in his own way. You know what I'm saying? Even if people don't want to talk about it violently, he still in a sense fought for what he believed in. He peacefully found a way to spread his message. In a sense, he found that as his way to fight, which I believe is a way to fight. You utilize your words, you utilize your knowledge, and you utilize characteristics about your own personality to spread a message and to change people's opinions and perspective. However, that does not negate the fact that sometimes things will escalate and you cannot deter it. And even if you wanted to utilize it as an example, when he got crucified, he still died for believing what he believed in, fighting for what he believed in, which he believed that he believed and he was doing right. He was preaching to the people that he was the Messiah, and he was just trying to show people a different way. And the Jews, or like the Jews, pretty much were like kind of hating him, and they reported him to the Romans, and the Romans considered him the Romans technically crucified him. So in a sense, he still fought for what he believed in, just in a different way. But nonetheless, if you look at other prophets before, a lot of other prophets still fought for what they believed in. So it's been and it's still here. Brother Ant is a weeb in denial. I'm not a weeb in denial. Yeah, exactly. Just because something is old doesn't mean it's incorrect. 100%. Yeah, for real, Christianity is a joke now. They're way too tolerant. Yeah, I feel like they are a little tolerant because, like, well, I will say like against. Well, I would say tolerant toward to certain ideologies. Other ideologies, don't get it twisted. There's still a lot of Christians that don't agree to a lot of what's going on in the world today. They just keep quiet. But at the same time, I believe in being quiet at some point is almost surrendering yourself to their ideology, which I don't agree with. That's why I decided to embrace Islam, because I feel like it's getting to a point in this world where people just feel like they have the right to force a certain lifestyle on you, which I do not agree with. Like, or force a certain mind state on you that I personally don't agree with. I don't agree with a lot of these ideologies, so that's why I don't fall into them. I don't agree with them. Like, I have a lot of gay friends, don't get it twisted, but I love them. I truly do. But at some point when it gets down to the nitty-gritty and it comes down to, the politics, and it comes down to the to life and things like that, I feel like sometimes they have a mind state where it's like, no, like, I have to be in the right. People have to conform to what I believe in at all times, which I don't agree with. I don't agree with that you shouldn't conform to whatever someone else wants you to conform to. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't make sense. It's like, yeah, I'm supposed to conform to everything that you believe. That's not what America was, for one, founded on. And secondly, one thing I have noticed, and it's not just, LGBTQ, it's also the black community, which I'm not afraid to say it, even though I march for Black Lives Matter, which I'm proud of doing. But I march for the correct reasons. I didn't march for, to say like black people are just constantly oppressed and we have no rights and we have nothing. I never did that. I protested for the fact that if you want to see a change from a people, you have to give people the room to grow. And if you continue to terrorize, bully, and, kind of, discriminate against a certain race of people, those people are going to soon, at some point, retaliate. And that's why I stood for it. Now, people try to say, like, yeah, but they were burning down buildings and smashing doors. Trust me, I went to multiple protests. None of those people did that. The people that did that was Antifa. And you have to look into that. That's a whole different thing. And that's what they're considering them now. And trust me, I know those people I knew a few people that were at those protests that were pretending to be there, to, oh, we're supporting you. No, they were there to have they had their own little agendas, but I was there for the right reasons. But still, you have to fight for what you believe in. At some point, you got to stand and take a stand. If you tolerate everything, you stand for nothing. 100%. The tolerant towards evil. 100%. We don't believe Jesus was crucified. I know, 100%. But I'm saying, for an example, in a sense, for Christian, like, even when, you know how, like, some Christians say turn the other cheek, and we acting out of non-violence and things like that, we don't fight. Well, in a sense, I believe in my heart of hearts that, even if from the Christian perspective, if you were to believe in the Christian perspective, I'm saying this hypothetically, but if you think from the Christian perspective, in a sense, Jesus being crucified for other sins is his form of fighting for what he believed in. He could have fought back and showed people a different side of himself, but he chose not to. He chose to say, I'm going to, like, just let this happen, and I'm going to die for these people. In the sense, that was fighting back in his own way, in a peaceful way. You know what I'm saying? But overall, it's to say that some Christians don't even have the goal to fight or stand up for what they believe in. They're not willing to do that. They're willing to turn the other cheek and think that it's all about peace and love, but it's not. Sometimes you have to stand up. Yeah, Allah didn't let him get killed by the disbelievers. 100%. I know that. I'm utilizing this as an example, guys. I'm just saying, if you were to think from a Christian perspective, in a sense, he was still fighting. That's all I was saying. It's funny how I never heard about a Muslim racist. One of the most beloved of the companions was black. Oh, yeah, I know. I heard about that. I read about that, actually. Quran mentions that Isa, peace be upon him, was not crucified, but Allah raised him. I know this, guys. I know. I'm just saying, from the Christian perspective, Christians are tolerant, even though they shouldn't be. I was saying, because if Christ talked about peace, love, and no non-violence, he still ended up fighting for what he believed in his own way, just in a peaceful way. It doesn't mean that he just keeled over and was just like, yeah, just beat me up. No, he did what he did in the way that he was supposed to. I'm just saying, from the Christian perspective, which Christians should take upon themselves to look at it a little bit more in depth. However, they don't choose to look at it that way. They choose to look at it as like we're just supposed to just be conformative, which I do not agree with. That's why I say it's hypothetical. Bro, I challenge any Christian to come and get slapped by me. No Christian is ever going to do that, I'm telling you. Wallahi, they won't turn the other cheek. I know they won't turn the other cheek. I know for a fact they won't. I didn't turn the other cheek. Now, I was very passive. I will say that. I was just one of those Christians that believed in my heart that I'm going to do whatever I can to make you see the errors of your way. Like, I utilize the kindness, my love, my compassion. I utilize these things as a way to create myself a mirror to reflect, for them to look at me, to reflect on how they're acting. If they didn't choose to look at that mirror and to just push the mirror aside and want to look at me as like some kind of enemy, then I, at that point, was okay with getting into a fight. I was ready to stand up for myself. Because I realized that there's sometimes where you're not going to be able to convince everyone, guys. You're not going to be able to convince every single person you run across. Some people are not going to care about looking at themselves because they're so ignorant of themselves that they don't see anything wrong with themselves. What they see is you as still the problem. And that is a problem with me, which I'm not going to allow myself to get beat up. I'm going to at least fight even if I get beat up, I'm going to at least go out swinging. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to just get beat up. My mother told me that if somebody puts their hands on you, you have the right to put the hands on them back. And that is what I stand up for. That is what I believe in, guys. I don't believe in just turning the other cheek. You got me messed up. All right, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, they did try to crucify him, but Allah saved him. I know Ali. Ali, I know. I know what you're saying. I'm not Ali Beckheader, but I'm talking about Ali B. Ali B, I know. I understand. I'm just saying from the Christian perspective. That's what they need to look into so they can learn to stand up for themselves. I'm not saying that I already know this, all right? Bro, he got that. He said 5 times. No. Yeah, exactly. I was just nobody finna mess with my brother Ant now. Nobody ever did. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Like, even as a kid, I stood up for my brothers. Like, even when I knew that they're in the wrong, I would still fight for them. And even when I got into, that's what. And I'm gonna tell you something. Okay. And after this, I'm gonna start the video because it's 7 o'clock. I got 30 minutes till iftar, which is enough for this video. But when I was younger, this is the reason why I entered Islam also, is because I always asked myself when I wrote my songs. And yes, guys, look, I write music, I listen to music. Okay, whatever, get past it, get over it. I know it's haram, but Allah knows best. To me, it's not haram. But nonetheless, I would write songs. And when in my songs, I would literally have this theme in my mind, just ringing in my mind. And I have to bring this theme out into my music. And what I would do is, like, I would say to myself, it was kind of corny, and I'm actually still doing this, but it's weird. But bear with me. I would literally ask a question in my songs, as if I'm speaking to myself, saying, "Where did Antonio go?" So obviously my name in Spanish is Antonio, and my name in English is Anthony. I would utilize that as a way to say my inner child was reaching out to me, saying, "You need to get back to your core self." And I never really found out why I always had this calling when I felt like I was still living the way I've always been living. And I don't know what it was, but I feel like in my heart, when I started looking into Islam, I felt that there was something telling me to get back to who I really was, because I lived my life so long to be thinking I have to be passive and keep my head down and be a good Christian and all these other things. But at the end of the day, I feel like I was moving away further from who I really was. And that was the guy that stood up for myself. And I have people that told me, literally come to me and told me and said, "What happened to you?" Like, I used to be in the greatest of shape. I'm literally super heavyweight. I'm overweight, obese. I'm literally overweight. You can look at me and tell. I used to be in the most fittest of shape. And people look at me now and they're like, "What happened to you?" And I used to sit down and be depressed, anxious. And I used to think to myself, why do I feel so depressed? Even to this day, sometimes, not all the time, but to this day, I'll ask myself, why am I so depressed? It's because I remember back to that Anthony that used to stand up for what he believed in. He used to fight for his brothers even though that they were wrong, and wouldn't allow anyone to harm them. He stood up for what he believed in, even if people wanted to beat him up. He stood up for doing the right thing every single time, even if it meant doing things that kind of went against what I believed. It meant standing up for that. And that's what I'm trying to do now with Islam. Islam kind of feels like that's what I'm supposed to do. It's calling back to my inner self, my inner Anthony. The what they call, if in spirituality, which is still, I believe in it, even without me being spiritual, even with God, I still believe this. That we all have an inner child and we all hold on to him very deeply. And over time, we begin to slip, that rope begins to slip. But that inner child is still there. And I feel like Islam is going to teach me to get back to that inner child, which holds the key to my manhood. What holds the key to my more manliness, to me being back to who I really was and believing wholeheartedly in everything that I do and having confidence. That's what I believe Islam is going to bring out of me. MashaAllah. No way. Yeah, I understand that you understand. Okay, cool. So no way you just pronounced my last name correct. Even errors mispronounce it. I said it right? Oh, cool. Oh, that's crazy. Tell him to pronounce it again. I'm not doing it again. Okay, I totally forgot how to say it already. I was just kind of going off the top of my head there. I used to be a hardcore music addict, but I started realizing I was wasting my time. Music subconsciously instills ideas into your head, so it's best to stay away. Whenever I hear music now, I start feeling annoyed. Well, to me, I don't feel annoyed. I honestly feel more at peace because it's this is something I want to talk about in a later video. I don't want to get caught up in music right now, but I feel like music is a part of the world. You know, music is a part of people. I just feel like, you know, in a sense, people listen to it too much. People utilize. There's something that you gotta watch the dot. There's this guy named Dawood Kim. His name was David Kim, but he changed it to Dawood. He's a Korean guy. I shared a clip of him the other day with the kids and everything. He has a video talking about music. His opinion is my opinion as well. Like it literally, he could have said. I could have said it no better than he said it in that video. Like that video was spot on to what I believe, and you gotta go watch it. That's all I'm gonna say for now. Nasheeds for the win. 100 Nasheeds. I will say Nasheeds though. Even as a kid, I used to love Nasheeds, even though I didn't know that's what they were called. Like even in like Christian churches, like there's things called hymns, which like you don't. There's no music. Like there's no music at all. You just literally hum. Like it's like a harmony. Like it's like like you know like you just hum it. That's what it's called. It's called hymns. You gotta look it up. It's really beautiful. Even in church they had those, and it was really amazing. I love those. And the sheets. Brother N is describing the fitra, subhanAllah. 100% the fitra, man. It's literally deep within us. It's there. It's deep within us. We got to tap back into it, man. The inner child, the fitra, you got to tap back into it, man. And I believe this is what Islam will do for me. Islam chicks for so many people. What? Islam clicks. I thought you said chicks. What are you talking about? Islam clicks for so many people because the embers of the fitra are still inside them. 100%. And that's why I came back to it. That's why I wanted to get into this. Bro, most music these days includes drugs, sex, rock and roll, murder, etc. That's very true, but I don't listen to that. There's other music out there. Like there's this guy named Lecrae, and if you ever looked up Lecrae, I'm not Christian anymore, and I never really listened to him per se. But Lecrae was a Christian rapper. Like that's what he did. Like he made songs where they're talking about Christianity. He like talked about God and things like that, and he'll incorporate like relationships and things like that, and how he incorporates God into those is very insane. Even if you look up, what's his name? Oh my gosh, what is his name? I forgot the guy's name, but there's a Muslim rapper. He doesn't make music much anymore, but he made a song called "Kick Push," where it was pretty much just talking about just keep it moving. That's all you can do because life just keeps moving. And it was a skateboard reference, but it was pretty good. But I don't listen to that other stuff, guys. Trust me. I never listened to that as a kid, and I didn't even like it as a kid. As a kid, I listened to it. I felt revolted because I was like, why is it necessary to use this? I mean, I cuss. You know, I'm a little tainted myself, but I cuss sometimes. But I don't find it appealing to cuss and talk about sex and drugs. That's just disgusting, dude. It just gets really old. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Ramadan Mubarak. Walaikum assalam, brother. Rakib, thank you for stopping by. Ramadan Kareem. You should start the video since you have exactly 30 minutes. Yeah, I know. I'm wasting time. There's this channel that recreates music, but without the music or instruments and replaces the lyrics with allow lyrics. That's pretty dope. Chicks. Yeah, I thought he said chicks, but anyway, I really did thought he said chicks, but it's all right. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. This is I'll follow the voluntary gifts, and hopefully we'll enjoy this. I'm gonna order my food on the way. So, here we go.
يسألونك عن الأنفال قل الأنفال لله والرسول فاتقوا الله وأصلحوا ذات بينكم وأطيعوا الله ورسوله إن كنتم مؤمنين إنما المؤمنون الذين إذا ذكر الله وجلت قلوبهم وإذا تليت عليهم آياته زادتهم إيمانا وإذا تليت عليهم آياته زادتهم إيمانا وعلى ربهم يتوكلون الذين يقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون أولئك هم المؤمنون حقا لهم درجات عند ربهم ومغفرة ورزق كريم كما أخرجك ربك من بيتك بالحق وإن فريقا من المؤمنين لكارهون يجادلونك في الحق بعدما تبين كأنما يساقون إلى الموت وهم ينظرون وإذ يعدكم الله إحدى الطائفتين أنها لكم وتودون أن غير ذات الشوكة تكون لكم ويريد الله أن يحق الحق بكلماته ويقطع دابر الكافرين ليحق الحق ويبطل الباطل ولو كره المجرمون إذ تستغيثون ربكم فاستجاب لكم أني ممدكم ب1000 من الملائكة مردفين وما جعله الله إلا بشرى ولتطمئن به قلوبكم وما النصر إلا من عند الله إن الله عزيز حكيم إذ يغشيكم النعاس أمنة منه وينزل عليكم من السماء ماء ليطهركم به ويذهب عنكم رجز الشيطان وليربط على قلوبكم ويثبت به الأقدام إذ يوحي ربك إلى الملائكة أني معكم فثبتوا الذين آمنوا سألقي في قلوب الذين كفروا الرعب فاضربوا فوق الأعناق واضربوا منهم كل بنان ذلك بأنهم شاقوا الله ورسوله ومن يشاقق الله ورسوله فإن الله شديد العقاب ذلكم فذوقوه وأن للكافرين عذاب النار يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا لقيتم الذين كفروا زحفا فلا تولوهم الأدبار ومن يولهم يومئذ دبره إلا متحرفا لقتال أو متحيزا إلى فئة فقد باء بغضب من الله ومأواه جهنم وبئس المصير فلم تقتلوهم ولكن الله قتلهم وما رميت إذ رميت ولكن الله رمى وليبلي المؤمنين منه بلاء حسنا إن الله سميع عليم. ذلكم وأن الله موهن كيد الكافرين. إن تستفتحوا فقد جاءكم الفتح وإن تنتهوا فهو خير لكم وإن تعودوا نعد ولن تغني عنكم فئتكم شيئا ولو كثرت وأن الله مع المؤمنين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله ورسوله ولا تولوا عنه وأنتم تسمعون. ولا تكونوا كالذين قالوا سمعنا وهم لا يسمعون. إن شر الدواب عند الله الصم البكم الذين لا يعقلون. ولو علم الله فيهم خيرا لأسمعهم ولو أسمعهم لتولوا وهم معرضون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا استجيبوا لله وللرسول إذا دعاكم لما يحييكم واعلموا أن الله يحول بين المرء وقلبه وأنه إليه تحشرون. واتقوا فتنة لا تصيبن الذين ظلموا منكم خاصة واعلموا أن الله شديد العقاب. واذكروا إذ أنتم قليل مستضعفون في الأرض تخافون أن يتخطفكم الناس فآواكم وأيدكم بنصره ورزقكم من الطيبات لعلكم تشكرون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تخونوا الله والرسول وتخونوا أماناتكم وأنتم تعلمون. واعلموا أنما أموالكم وأولادكم فتنة وأن الله عنده أجر عظيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله يجعل لكم فرقانا ويكفر عنكم سيئاتكم ويغفر لكم والله ذو الفضل العظيم. وإذ يمكر بك الذين كفروا ليثبتوك أو يقتلوك أو يخرجوك ويمكرون ويمكر الله والله خير الماكرين. وإذا تتلى عليهم آياتنا قالوا قد سمعنا لو نشاء لقلنا مثل هذا إن هذا إلا أساطير الأولين وإذ قالوا اللهم إن كان هذا هو الحق من عندك فأمطر علينا حجارة من السماء أو ائتنا بعذاب أليم وما كان الله ليعذبهم وأنت فيهم وما كان الله معذبهم وهم يستغفرون وما لهم ألا يعذبهم الله وهم يصدون عن المسجد الحرام وما كانوا أولياءه إن أولياؤه إلا المتقون ولكن أكثرهم لا يعلمون وما كان صلاتهم عند البيت إلا مكاء وتصدية فذوقوا العذاب بما كنتم تكفرون إن الذين كفروا ينفقون أموالهم ليصدوا عن سبيل الله فسينفقونها ثم تكون عليهم حسرة ثم يغلبون والذين كفروا إلى جهنم يحشرون ليميز الله الخبيث من الطيب ويجعل الخبيث بعضه على بعض فيركمه جميعا فيجعله في جهنم أولئك هم الخاسرون قل للذين كفروا إن ينتهوا يغفر لهم ما قد سلف وإن يعودوا فقد مضت سنة الأولين وقاتلوهم حتى لا تكون فتنة ويكون الدين كله لله فإن انتهوا فإن الله بما يعملون بصير وإن تولوا فاعلموا أن الله مولاكم نعم المولى ونعم النصير واعلموا أنما غنمتم من شيء فأن لله خمسه وللرسول ولذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل إن كنتم آمنتم بالله وما أنزلنا على عبدنا يوم الفرقان يوم التقى الجمعان والله على كل شيء قدير. إذ أنتم بالعدوة الدنيا وهم بالعدوة القصوى والركب أسفل منكم، ولو تواعدتم لاختلفتم في الميعاد، ولكن ليقضي الله أمرا كان مفعولا ليهلك من هلك عن بينة ويحيى من حي عن بينة، وإن الله لسميع عليم. إذ يريكهم الله في منامك قليلا ولو أراكهم كثيرا لفشلتم ولتنازعتم في الأمر ولكن الله سلم، إنه عليم بذات الصدور. وإذ يريكموهم إذ التقيتم في أعينكم قليلا ويقللكم في أعينهم ليقضي الله أمرا كان مفعولا، وإلى الله ترجع الأمور. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا لقيتم فئة فاثبتوا واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون. وأطيعوا الله ورسوله ولا تنازعوا فتفشلوا وتذهب ريحكم واصبروا إن الله مع الصابرين. ولا تكونوا كالذين خرجوا من ديارهم بطرا ورئاء الناس ويصدون عن سبيل الله والله بما يعملون محيط. وإذ زين لهم الشيطان أعمالهم وقال لا غالب لكم اليوم من الناس وإني جار لكم، فلما تراءت الفئتان نكص على عقبيه وقال إني بريء منكم إني أرى ما لا ترون إني أخاف الله والله شديد العقاب. إذ يقول المنافقون والذين في قلوبهم مرض غر هؤلاء دينهم ومن يتوكل على الله فإن الله عزيز حكيم. ولو ترى إذ يتوفى الذين كفروا الملائكة يضربون وجوههم وأدبارهم وذوقوا عذاب الحريق ذلك بما قدمت أيديكم وأن الله ليس بظلام للعبيد. كدأب آل فرعون والذين من قبلهم كفروا بآيات الله فأخذهم الله بذنوبهم إن الله قوي شديد العقاب. ذلك بأن الله لم يك مغيرا نعمة أنعمها على قوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم وأن الله سميع عليم. كدأب آل فرعون والذين من قبلهم كذبوا بآيات ربهم فأهلكناهم بذنوبهم وأغرقنا آل فرعون وكل كانوا ظالمين. إن شر الدواب عند الله الذين كفروا فهم لا يؤمنون. الذين عاهدت منهم ثم ينقضون عهدهم في كل مرة وهم لا يتقون. فإما تثقفنهم في الحرب فشرد بهم من خلفهم لعلهم يذكرون. وإما تخافن من قوم خيانة فانبذ إليهم على سواء إن الله لا يحب الخائنين. ولا يحسبن الذين كفروا سبقوا إنهم لا يعجزون. وأعدوا لهم ما استطعتم من قوة ومن رباط الخيل ترهبون به عدو الله وعدوكم وآخرين من دونهم لا تعلمونهم الله يعلمهم. وما تنفقوا من شيء في سبيل الله يوفى إليكم وأنتم لا تظلمون. وإن جنحوا للسلم فاجنح لها وتوكل على الله إنه هو السميع العليم. وإن يريدوا أن يخدعوك فإن حسبك الله هو الذي أيدك بنصره وبالمؤمنين وألف بين قلوبهم لو أنفقت ما في الأرض جميعا ما ألفت بين قلوبهم ولكن الله ألف بينهم إنه عزيز حكيم. يا أيها النبي حسبك الله ومن اتبعك من المؤمنين. يا أيها النبي حرض المؤمنين على القتال إن يكن منكم 20 صابرون يغلبوا 200 وإن يكن منكم 100 يغلبوا 1000 من الذين كفروا بأنهم قوم لا يفقهون. الآن خفف الله عنكم وعلم أن فيكم ضعفا فإن يكن منكم 100 صابرة يغلبوا 200 وإن يكن منكم 1000 يغلبوا 2000 بإذن الله والله مع الصابرين. ما كان لنبي أن يكون له أسرى حتى يثخن في الأرض تريدون عرض الدنيا والله يريد الآخرة والله عزيز حكيم. لولا كتاب من الله سبق لمسكم فيما أخذتم عذاب عظيم. فكلوا مما غنمتم حلالا طيبا واتقوا الله إن الله غفور رحيم. يا أيها النبي قل لمن في أيديكم من الأسرى إن يعلم الله في قلوبكم خيرا يؤتكم خيرا مما أخذ منكم ويغفر لكم والله غفور رحيم. وإن يريدوا خيانتك فقد خانوا الله من قبل فأمكن منهم والله عليم حكيم. إن الذين آمنوا وهاجروا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله والذين آووا ونصروا أولئك بعضهم أولياء بعض والذين آمنوا ولم يهاجروا ما لكم من ولايتهم من شيء حتى يهاجروا وإن استنصروكم في الدين فعليكم النصر إلا على قوم بينكم وبينهم ميثاق والله بما تعملون بصير. والذين كفروا بعضهم أولياء بعض إلا تفعلوه تكن فتنة في الأرض وفساد كبير. والذين آمنوا وهاجروا وجاهدوا في سبيل الله والذين آووا ونصروا أولئك هم المؤمنون حقا لهم مغفرة ورزق كريم. والذين آمنوا من بعد وهاجروا وجاهدوا معكم فأولئك منكم وأولو الأرحام بعضهم أولى ببعض في كتاب الله إن الله بكل شيء عليم.
I mean, all right, man, that was great. I had to eat some chips while I wait for my food because it's already iftar for me. But I ate some chips, so it made up for it. But it's gonna my food's on its way. It's gonna take a little while, unfortunately, because there's like no one nearby to deliver the food. So I'm waiting. Assalamu alaikum. Walaikum assalam, and thank you for stopping by. Mashallah. But yeah, that was a great one. I will say this one is a little it's a little bit different than the other surahs we've read so far. But I think like it touches on just the basics, just talking about like I think this is more historic of a hadith, on a hadith, a sunnah, surah. I'm terrible with this. It talks about pretty much like, don't be fearful of the pagans and literally don't be afraid to fight for what you stand for and all these other things. And like if you do defeat them, they choose to peacefully retreat or like they decide to peacefully submit, then you can submit to them. But any spoils that you get, obviously, like you have to disperse it in God's way. And I think it talks a little briefly about it. Doesn't really go into too much detail, but it just talks about how like how they're defeated and like what you do with the spoils. But you got to remember God at all times and do right with the spoils. And I think it says at the end here, and those who later believe migrated and struggled alongside you, they are along with you. But only blood relatives are now entitled to inherit from one another as ordained by God. Sure, but surely God has full knowledge of everything. So obviously, like whoever's in closest to you can inherit your spoils and things like that. And you're supposed to be peaceful to the captives. You're not supposed to use them and beat them up or kill them. You're supposed to literally treat them kindly, even though they're not believers. I think that's very intriguing as far as like as far as like understanding the surah itself. So I think this was a good one. We'll say that this one wasn't something I was super eager to listen to, but I mean, nonetheless, it was very informative, and I'm glad to see that in this book that it actually shows a little bit of detail as far as like what you should do when you actually win a war and what you should do to people that surrender to you or what you should remember when fighting your enemies. I think it's very impertinent to use like kind of what we touched on today, talking about standing up for yourself and believing in what you believe in, and no matter what, like believe in God and have faith and trust in God when you're fighting these people. Do not turn your backs to them. Continue to remember that God is always with you, and that no matter what, at the end of the day, you'll be fine as long as you have that faith. And I think that that's very a strong message. Very gradual, very short, not too long. I think that was pretty good for what it was, and I think I learned a lot from just these few words. And once again, like speaking to my fitra that I was talking about earlier, like holding on to that inner child and believing in what I believe in, and not and standing up for it, and not allowing others to kind of like walk all over what you believe. Sometimes you will have that confrontation, and it's inevitable. Sometimes people will try to fight you. Some people will try to come against you, but it's not to say like I'm not talking about people that are like obviously just trying to talk about your issues or they always have something to say, but and they can talk all they want, but as soon as somebody decides to fight you, literally fight you, then you have I believe in my heart that you have every right to stand up for yourself. One thing I do, I'm not a big fan of the country that I live in. Sometimes I look at the country I live in and I'm always disgusted by the fact that we have so many things that's wrong with us, but we choose to kind of like ignore them and not really fix them. I mean, a lot of countries have these issues, but I feel like ours in particular should be more on the forefront of solving issues and fixing them rather than just avoiding them. But people are afraid to stand up for what they believe in, which is kind of crazy because this is what this country was founded on. Freedom of belief, freedom of speech. It was about freedom, about doing the thing that you believed in the most and standing up for it. And I think like that's the most pertinent thing that people need to take into account nowadays. Even with the Will Smith thing, that's what I don't understand. Even though I find it sometimes, like I understand why some people found it very inappropriate that Will Smith went on stage and slapped another man. He could have handled it differently. But you got to understand that sometimes people are pushed to a limit and pushed to a corner and you have no choice but to stand up for yourself. And this, especially in his case, like, he's tried to do the Christian thing and hold back on things. But as you can tell, the more that he held that in, the more he popped. You saw that he popped on live television, smacking another man on the stage. Instead of actually confronting everything that he's feeling in the right way, he decides to, honestly, I don't know. But he casually ignores it and he kind of holds it in. I don't know what's going on behind closed doors, and I don't know what's going on in his life, but I feel bad for the guy. I really do, because I remember I was him, and I remember I looked to him, and I still look up to him to this day. But at some point, you have to stand up for what you believe, because then you're going to end up doing things like that. You're just going to continue holding things in. Now, stoicism is not necessarily what he was doing, but I feel like stoicism could have helped him more, channel his anger, and put it in the right way so he wouldn't have done that. But as you can tell, the more you're pushed to do something, the more you have to fight. The more you have to stand up to stand up for yourself, And I think that's what we need to do as a society, and even in the Muslim community. I feel like I feel like I'm a broken record, honestly, at this point. I feel like I talk about it too much. But I feel like people stand up and fight for the wrong things in the Muslim community sometimes. I look at people in the comment section and I see that people always try to use certain, obviously hadith and certain surahs and quotes from the Quran and the hadith to indicate that this is how you're supposed to act. But sometimes I feel like the things that we respond to as people are very petty, and we need to focus on bigger matters. And once again, I talk about this a lot, but I can't get enough of saying it, because I feel like once you tackle the bigger issues, the tiny ones will solve itself. Let me say that again for people. Once you attack and fight against the bigger issues, the smaller issues will handle themselves. And I really do mean that, because it becomes self-explanatory when you start fixing all the issues. It's almost like you have a car, right? One little component of the car could be affected by another component of the car. The engine runs, and it depends on the gas, the oil. It also depends on the filters and the exhaust. If any of those components break or they go wrong, then it affects the whole entire engine. And once you find out what's wrong with the entire engine and you work on the tinier things, then the main problem will work itself out. So we need to focus on the main problem and fix those problems. Inshallah, hopefully that's how the thing goes, but I've spoken enough already. I think I don't really have much else to add other than that. Ya Allah, it ended, alhamdulillah, 100%. 100%. It definitely ended. What did I order? I ordered Chick-fil-A. I haven't had Chick-fil-A in almost over a month, so I thought I'd have some Chick-fil-A. Do a halal mukbang. I am not doing no halal mukbang. What do I look? Do I look like a mukbanger to you, sir? This man wants me to do a halal mukbang. Get out of here, Abu. You little troll. But nonetheless, man, you know what? I really love you guys, man. I really do. And I meant what I said in the comment section. Bro, no joke. If someone insulted my wife knowing how seriously I take it, I'd be willing to go to jail. What I do. Literally. Knowing how seriously I take it, I'd be willing to go to jail. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? But that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not agreeing, but see, that's the whole thing, man. It's kind of, it's a mess. It's a total mess. And I know that there's so many things that go into it, and I've talked about this way too much. And I know that Jada is not the best example, but nonetheless, that is his wife. And then they added the script, they added the stupid joke to the script at the last second. And it's like, bro, come on, man. They knew what they was doing. And nonetheless, Will Smith in disguise? Nah. Nah, man. I really am just an avid supporter of him, man. It's just, I'm very avid of supporting the guy, because the thing is, people just, I don't know, man. Once again, we talk, and that's the hypocrisy there, because I see some Muslims kind of go off on him, and I'm just like, bro, like, whoa, hold on. We talk about all this in the religion, talking about how to stand up for what you believe. You know, this man has been taking slaps to the face. You want to talk about literally taking slaps? This man's been taking slaps to the face for a good amount of time now and has done absolutely nothing about it. But as soon as he reacts to a slap, he reacts to one time, and I'm not taking it no more. And he slaps this guy across the face, and people are like, "Oh, you're a terrible individual. You're a thug. You need to go to jail." I'm just like, man, you cannot win, bro. You cannot win. Men in the West don't even have a hint of protective jealousy over their wives and their and daughters. That's not true. We do. It's just that we trust me. We definitely do. I'm not saying I don't have a wife nor I have a daughter, but I do have a protective jealousy, only because it's like I know how men are, and that's why I also entered Islam, because I just believe that men and women can be friends to a certain extent. I'm not saying they can be friends, period. But platonically, I don't think so, because you can be friends, but you cannot, like, I mean, from a distance. Which there's no such thing as being a friend per se, or not even a friend, more like an acquaintance. There's no such thing as being a friend with a female. And I honestly, even when I had girlfriends, I would always try to protect them. I always had like a sense of protection. Even for my female friends, I had protection for them. Even when they ignored my words and my signs to protect them, like to save themselves and not get involved with a certain guy, and they continue to do it anyway, I still wanted to protect them, no matter what. And I got pissed because I used to be like, bro, like I told you not to go mess with this guy. They get their heart broken, and I'm like, look at you, like, you know what I'm saying? Like but I'd be mad at the other person, but at the same time, I'd just be just as mad at them. I just try to console them a little bit, because I understand that, you know, emotions get involved and people make stupid decisions. We're not perfect, but still, it was just like, bro, like I hated the fact that women just fell prey to these stupid individuals. And I was just like, even for my personal girlfriends, I swear, if a guy ever tried to touch her, man, we going to fight, my boy. How do they not feel infuriated when they see other people hitting on their women, bro? I don't know. Some people, the people that do not feel infuriated, I feel like they still are. To be honest with you, I don't, you know, I kind of want to touch. It's kind of like a touchy red pill kind of comment, kind of ideal. But like, I feel like the only men that don't do anything about it is the blue pill, or like beta, simpish, sad boy kind of like men that allow that to happen. You know, because they feel like they should be stoic in every situation. And I'm gonna be honest with you, like in those kind of situations when a man is hitting on a girl right in front of them, I personally don't understand how a person can sit back and be like, and shrug their shoulders. I personally would be saying up all in their face, like, or telling them like, bro, like just chill out, like this is my girl, you know what I mean? Like, you don't do that. You don't do that. And I don't want to bring out my hood side, but that's just something you do not do. That's not something that you play around with, you know? So I personally don't play that game. I don't at all. I never did. That's why I had a hard time getting in relationships to begin with, because girls always wanted to be friends with guys all the time. And then they always want to talk about, but he's so nice. I'm like, I don't care. Does it look like I care? Like, trust me, if you really need a guy friend, I'm your guy friend. If you need friends, go talk to females. But that's just why I entered Islam anyway, guys. The dating world has just become really just. Ugh. Now Steve Harvey. I'm not Steve Harvey at all. Steve Harvey. Oh my gosh, Steve Harvey is a good man, but at the same time, I feel like he's similar to how some people are talking about Denzel when he said the thing about the devil being in a situation. I think it's similar. I stare back intensely at every guy, even if he glances upon a family member for a split second. I know, me too. Even when people try to hit on my mom as a kid, I used to be as like I was literally like super short. I would be like willing to stand in front of my mother, like, nah, bro, like keep it pushing. This is why in Islamic State, insulting someone's mother or wife is punishable, and it perfectly should be, perfectly should be. But anyway, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I think my food just arrived, so I got to go ahead and get my food. I got to go ahead and get stuff done. But nonetheless, I thank you guys for stopping by the stream. Appreciate you guys very, very much. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. I had to go get my food. But anyway, Brother Ant is very scared when he's angry. I'll no longer call him a weeb. No, it's cool, man. I'm a very peaceful guy. The thing is just I don't. That's the thing, you know. You can be a loving, kind individual, but it doesn't mean that you don't have a side where you get it. It doesn't mean that you don't get angry. It doesn't mean that you don't get upset. It doesn't mean that you're not human. We're all human, you know. We all have our anger. We all have our, like I said before, we all have a light and a dark in us. Not to be on my Harry Potter stuff, but we all have a light and a dark in us, and we're always tempted on to do one bad thing or do good in the other, you know. And no, I don't necessarily agree with fighting. I still believe in standing up for myself to some level, even if it's even if it's just me, you know. Mukbang time. Yeah, so this is my drink. I just got me a Powerade, and I got my food here. But I'm not going to show you. I'm going to show you in the video tomorrow. Woohoo! We're going to go on the video tomorrow. I love you guys so much for stopping by the stream. I'm getting out of here. It's super late. I got to go edit these videos and do some other things. But once again, I love you guys. Until next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and love to y'all.